You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 148. After 1 week hiatus, we are back again. 148. We're about to hit 150 very soon. But without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callie, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., 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 and all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Vold, Shield. What is going on there, Shield?
Yeah, it feels like it's been a few weeks since we've done the show. I just kind of had to remind myself how to get everything set up properly. But here we are on a Wednesday. Of course, I chowed down some Chinese food beforehand, and my fortune cookie says, all happiness is in the mind. So I don't know what that means. probably hopefully going to be a good show, but I guess happiness is not a real thing if it says it's all in the mind, I guess. So probably not a real thing. But we do know this show is real. Here we are. Another good one, as always, I'm looking forward to.
Yes. And, now it's kind of that weird time of, the NBA playoffs are going on, the NHL playoffs are going on. I mean, it's a good time, but the thing is no Minnesota sports teams are in it anymore, for one. The Twins are obviously been playing. Speaking of the Twins, we'll be talking about we're going to check in with our favorite team, the Minnesota Twins. There's been some rough patches. I think right now they're in a rough patch. And then we're going to talk about what our old friend D'Lo said, saying that the T-Wolves held him back for some Tater Tot Hot Take. So we got some things fresh and out of the oven. But another thing we're doing this week, we're back with Where Are They Now? And this week we got some good ones. Voldy especially. This guy has kind of been the epitome of michaelmauti, wanna party hottie. So, former Minnesota Viking linebacker, and then former Timberwolf, only one season with the Wolves, AK-47, Andreikirilenko. So, we're going to see where they've been, what they've been up to. So, that'll be another fun segment of Where Are They Now? And then, after that, we got some ARA. We got some good stories. Carloscorrea speaking on the Twins, his struggles with the Twins right now. And a lot of NFL stuff happening as well. And then the NBA, Jokic, we're going to talk about that controversy as well. And, of course, Shield shoutouts. So we've got a jam-packed show. And, Voldy, let's just get it rolling, man. Let's do some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, Voldy Zoners, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. Our first hot take, like I said, we're gonna check on our Minnesota Twins here, and they're kind of going through a rough patch a little bit. They're 19-17. They started off pretty well against the Padres here. Just right now, they're up 1-0. Max Kepler home run. The one thing that has been kind of the main topic for the Minnesota Twins right now with this rough patch is the bats, the hitting, the batting averages, the whole deal. It's not good. This is obviously not the Bomba squad, No,
it is not.
But noticeably, exactly. And it's interesting because the Twins are still in first place. So,
somehow.
Something like that. So, Voldy, let's just kind of look over, like, so far, what have you liked with the Twins? And, obviously, give me your thoughts on this rough patch and how they can kind of hopefully get out of it. What do you got?
Well, even with a decent start to the year that the Twins have, the national media is never going to give the Twins or any other Minnesota sports team credit for anything good they do. I think it was yesterday I saw that even the worst placed team, the AL East, the Yankees, have a better record than the Minnesota Twins, who are in first place in the AL Central. Literally, once again, the national media will do anything to make any bigger market look better than any Minnesota team whatsoever. It's sad, but at the same time, look, that's just the way the division rolls. Like, I'm sorry that the AL Central isn't the AL East with all these big market teams. And yes, the Tampa Bay Rays are still a trash team in my mind, but yet the best team in baseball overall. But give the team the credit that's due. The Twins have had a fairly decent start to the year. Like we always talk about, pitching has been actually a bit of a strong start for them, starting-wise as well.
That's true.
Sonny Gray's had a really good year for the Twins as well. I mean, Tyler Mahle, when he was healthy, was doing things the Joe Ryan experience as well. He was doing and contributing very, very well for the team too. Guys have been called in as well. I mean, Winder, even Bailey Ober as well. Those guys have really bolstered this, almost 6-7 arm rotation the Twins have had here coming into the season as well. Have really contributed in a lot of ways. And, even with the bats struggling so far, they've won a lot of these games that have been, kind of knockout, drag-out, bullpen type win games too. It's just been unfortunate, especially with that recent series they had against Cleveland as well, now coming into tonight. Last night, I should say, was San Diego, and, unfortunately losing a late lead and then losing in the back end of the game against the Padres, and, well, at least they're winning right now. It's been a bit of a black mark, a little bit of bump in the road so far, but the fact that they're in first place right now, 19-17 overall, yes, it's been back and forth a little bit, but there's been a lot of really good overall play here. It just need the bats to start contributing a little bit more.
I feel like every team kind of goes through this too, Voldy, and I think, this is one thing that we can all agree on is sometimes there's going to be some stretches where they're not going to be able to hit, and there's going to be stretches where the pitching is not, on point like it should be. So, I would say right now I'm kind of expecting this. I mean, there's obviously been the surprise with the pitching, so that helps. But I also know that, that could turn around very quickly. And I'm saying the pitching could go downhill if guys get hurt or, if they start off well and then they, go on a decline. So you got to factor that in. So we'll see. But Easy A says, we are in a sad division of the Twins. We're in a sad division and the Twins are in first place. So I think there was a typo there. But I would agree 100%. I think Voldy already touched on it with the division. The White Sox are terrible. The Royals aren't very good. The Guardians are probably the only team that's probably going to keep up with them.
Right.
But unless things change, because, like I said, a lot can change here these next few months. Right. So, with that being said, Voldy, we mentioned the bats, and I just kind of want to go through a couple names here. The first one, like we talked about before the show, Jose Miranda. He's been sent down to AAA. Yeah. I think that's a smart move because I'm looking at his batting average right now, 220.
Not good.
That's not good.
That's not going to cut it.
And I know people probably want to be like, well, you're going to get to Correa, right? We will. The thing is we're going to wait till ARA. That is a whole different stuff, so we'll wait for that one. But Miranda, I think, hasn't been the guy that we thought he would kind of be after his really good season last season. So maybe this helps him kind of get back. And I know they did that with Buxton a couple times, so that's good news. I mean, right now, I look at Buxton, and he's hitting 233. He's got 8 home runs. That's not something that obviously you want to see the average up a little bit. He's hitting the home runs, but he's not getting severely injured, which is a win in itself. So we got that going for us. Kepler's got to pick it up. He's only hitting 213. Obviously, he probably heard us talking, and he spanked a home run, just not too long ago here. So that's good. Joey Gallo started off really hot, and then he kind of
really not.
Off. Yeah, exactly. He's only hitting 189, and then Nick Gordon, good Lord, 155. Like, come on. Like, what is going on here? There's only one guy that's over 250, I think, that we said. So.
Yeah, Donovan Solano, I think it is.
Yeah, Solano. So, that's not good. I mean, how do they fix it? Well, Baldelli and their hitting coaches and things like that. It's just, if you can get a little spurt like you did just now with the with what Kepler's doing right now, and then guys kind of feed off that, then you're gaining some more confidence. So hopefully they can get some more hits here and get it going, because the pitching's fine. I mean, that's saying a lot right now. And Easy A says, "LOL, Sano numbers." Yeah, well, there's a lot of Sano numbers. I would say right now. So you're 100% right on that, Easy. So Voldy, it's still very early. We like what we have with the pitching. We like what we have with some of these guys, and guys that have been with the Minnesota Twins for a little bit now, like Kepler, and then Polanco, Gordon, Jeffers. But I'm getting this inkling that maybe the Twins could be sellers at the deadline. I almost feel like it's still a ways. It's still a ways away. It's still a very long time away. But I just, if the bats don't pick it up, and if they're not hitting, well, I mean their team average right now 219. Mm-hmm. That says enough. 219. So obviously Correa's got to pick it up. We'll talk about that a little later. Michael A. Taylor, I think, has been, good in center. He's been, doing some good stuff. Jeffers been okay. But I think they're missing a little bit of Luis Ariz, our guy, Luis Ariz. So, Voldy, out of those names of Kepler, Polanco, I know teams have kind of almost inquired with Polanco. And then maybe even throw in Nick Gordon with that. I mean, do you see those guys being, traded at the deadline from at this point? Not, a lot can change here. But, I mean, aren't those three names that you could say, yeah, I could see them leaving? So what do you got?
Yeah, I know that over the last couple of years, it's been Kepler that's kind of been the guy that's been on the trading block, or a very interested key piece, and Polanco for a good stretch as well was someone to keep an eye on as well. I mean, I could very well see Max Kepler getting traded at the deadline as well, but that's August. I mean, we're in May right now. I mean, we're in the first, full first couple of weeks of May. There's a lot that still needs to be figured out. I mean, Twins right now from this point on could go on a 15-20 game winning streak right now, or win 7 of their 8 next series as well, and everything will be just fine, and we'll stop talking about how they have a worse record than every team in the AL East. Let's certainly hope, but again, national media will never give them credit for anything. But if I had to pick one guy, I think Max Kepler, certainly he could be like what Eddie Rosario was a couple of years ago too. He gets traded, ends up, on a winning team too, ends up being a key factor for a postseason run. Well, ends up being World Series MVP with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, he's the guy that jumps out in my mind as well. I think Gordon, if he's not going to make it here, he's not going to make it really anywhere as well. His brother D, I mean, it bounced around a lot of different teams as well, and he had a really good, promising start to his career as well. But, I mean, if he doesn't make it here, I don't see him doing much anywhere else. Polanco is another guy, too, good defensive player when he connects. I mean, he can certainly hit the ball a ton, too. He'll be another trade deadline guy as well. But especially with the offense struggling so far, trying to make do with what they have. They did get Kyle Farmer back as well. I think getting Jose Miranda back down to AAA here, maybe for a couple of weeks, maybe a month stretch as well, fine-tune a couple things, because, I mean, literally, this is only his second season at the big league level. You want to avoid the sophomore slump as much as possible. Yeah. Let's just hope it's an extended slump as well. Maybe fine-tune a couple of things, work out a couple of things, get that confidence back up. I know a couple of games I tuned into as well. Defensively, he just seems kind of very unsure about himself in a couple of different places. I think defensively, just work some of that out, get back to day-to-day, working on a few things as well, play every day as well, and I think things will kind of work itself out.
Fingers crossed, right? Fingers
Let's
crossed.
hope.
So we'll keep an eye out, and we'll keep you up to date on the game that's going on right now. So we'll go from there. All right. Voldy, this past week, there's our good friend D'Lo, the guy that you were going to set the Target Center on fire if the Wolves just didn't get him.
That was a while ago.
That was a long time ago. And it's hard to believe, because I feel like it was almost yesterday that happened. But anyway, D'Lo saying some had some interesting comments to say about his former team, and a lot of it doesn't surprise me, obviously, because there was some controversy in the locker room, him and Rudy Gobert and everything like that. And the quote that he has is, he says, "I'm a killer, man. I'm a bird that needs to fly, and I really couldn't fly there." So I did talk to our guy Cole Munson about this, and he says that it's a load of BS, and that's his exact words too.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked this of the zoners. I'll give my opinion here in a second, but I asked this of the zoners, and I asked this of you, Voldy. What are your thoughts on D'Lo's comments about his time with the Timberwolves?
You know, I mean, he had plenty of opportunities. When Cat got hurt, with Anthony Edwards wasn't performing to the level that he had to. He had plenty of opportunity, and for lack of a better term, he pissed it all away, in my mind, too. I mean, yes, you know, he was always going to be a role guy, no matter what his career. Like, when he first came into the league, too, yes, he was on a couple of bad Laker teams where he had to be the guy in a couple of situations, but he was never going to be a number one, this guy you can build your franchise around. I hate to say it, but he was never going to be that guy in my mind. He was always going to be a complimentary. He was going to be a 1B or maybe a solid 2 guy as well. Like, he was going to be the guy behind the guy. If that guy goes down, you can lean on this guy. But he was never going to be the number one player. And saying that, and I say it as well, the same thing with Nick Gordon. If you can't make it here, you can't really make it anywhere else. I mean, you might as well start packing things up, maybe start looking to play overseas too. Not saying that could ever happen to D'Angelo Russell, but like I see it from the standpoint of he had plenty of opportunity to shine at the next level. It was just he could never really get there. Yes, a couple flashes in the pan. Maybe there was a big game on or something, you know, playing the Warriors, playing the Lakers or some other big team that was in town or on the road or something. And, you know, maybe he'd put something together as well, but was never going to be at that level that he thought it was going to be at. And I hate to say it just because of the fact that, you know what, he did all right for himself in a lot of different times with the Timberwolves too. It just wasn't going to be there to the point that he wants. And, you know, now he can say it because his team's in the playoffs and the Timberwolves barely had anything going in the playoffs altogether as well. But, you know, it's just unfortunate timing on his part that he wants to come out and say all of this now. I mean, kick a team while they're still down. It's kind of a new low for him.
You know, it's hard for me to really kind of grasp. His comments don't bother me because it's not one of those things where it's like he was, you know, being a pain in the butt. I mean, technically he kind of was. He just didn't like Gobert and he'd openly talk trash about him, you know, things like that. Which, you know, I think that's a little ridiculous in itself. And especially, you know, I understand that he hasn't been playing up to that level that everyone expected, but I also know too that he needs to know when to, you know, he's got to get along with his teammates. I think it's the main thing here. But as for his comments, he, you know, he said that he didn't ask out of Minnesota, and he never felt. He just said, never. I felt that in my gut. I never spoke on it. I never showed that. I just felt it. That's all. Obviously, I would assume he looked at the social medias because everyone was saying that he was probably going to go. So, I mean, I think he knew. He felt it. And whatnot. And, you know, he's like, he said in his comments, too, that I really think's interesting here is he said, I just kind of had to be the third option. And technically, when you think about it, yeah, because it goes Ant, obviously, then probably Cat, even though, well, I guess that can kind of switch too, and then him. granted, I get why he kind of felt that way, but I also know, too, that, he is just mainly a scorer. If I'm being completely honest, he is just mainly a guy that goes in and scores. He doesn't play great defense, but when he's on, he's really good. And, we didn't see enough growth with him. And that's kind of the sad part about it. And, obviously we wish him well, and he's doing great with the Lakers, and it seems like LeBron, or they say, he said that, like, LeBron and Anthony Davis are, like, saying, we want to win here, and, X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of that veteran leadership.
Right.
But I do kind of blame the Wolves in this instance, because where the hell was any of their leadership from Cat, from Ant? We've talked about it at length. But so I kind of look at this as, it's somewhat of the Wolves' fault here for not utilizing him in a proper way. But I also know that he could have stepped up and have been a leader here, too. Instead, he just wanted to, rip on Gobert. And apparently people, and maybe he had good reason to, but obviously you got to work together. I mean, this is,
Right.
I mean, I'm watching, I have a game on right now, the Eastern semifinals, the Miami Heat. As much as I hate to say it, obviously with Jimmy Butler, they're in the playoffs. They play as a team. You watch the Knicks, for goodness sake, and Tibbs is coaching that team.
Yikes.
They're in the play. They're a 5 seed, for goodness sake, in the East. So the fact that they all have leadership there with Jimmy Butler, unfortunately, and then you look at Brunson. They bring in Brunson. You have, they're all buying into what Tibbs is doing. So I think it's absurd from the I would say, if we're doing absurd to prove, it's absurd that he thinks that he was held back, because I think he's had every opportunity to be better. And the thing is he was bad in the playoffs last year against Memphis. He couldn't make a shot, and when he can't make a shot, we're in trouble. So, there's a lot factored in.
Need to get Zappa's opinion on all this too.
I really would like to get Zappa on here as well, and talk about that. And Munson kind of talked about it too, and we'll kind of hopefully get more from him. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't piss me off as much. I mean, honestly, it's more of, was he held back? Maybe a little bit, but he had every opportunity to, handle it. So I think we can kind of, wrap it up with that and, see what they do in the offseason here. But I don't think the Wolves held him back. I just think that he held himself back when he was with the Wolves. And, we all thought, like, oh, this is going to be bad because if we trade him, Cat's going to want out. And it's like, well, to be honest, now people want Cat traded. So, I don't know. This offseason is going to be an interesting one for the Timberwolves. So we shall see what happens, Zoners and Voldy. All right, that'll do it for Tater Tot Hot Take this week. Voldy, it's time to do Where Are They Now? It has been a while. It's been a long time since we've done some Where Are They Now. We got some good ones. Michaelmauti. We've got Andreikirilenko, AK-47. So let's get it going. So where'd they go? Where are they? Where are they now? I don't see.
Check your milk carton. It's time for Where Are They Now?
All right, welcome back. It is time for Where Are They Now? We start off with Andreikirilenko. A lot of Zoners and maybe some, Wolves fans and obviously Jazz fans know him as AK-47, which, again, you can translate. You can know that is a gun and everything like that. But
unfortunate nickname, we'll say.
Right. It's kind of how it goes. And of course, what has been his number? 47. So Andreikirilenko, he was a long time Utah Jazz player, and obviously he played in none other than Russia and whatnot. And he played for the Jazz for about 10 years, 2001 to 2011. And he was the youngest foreign player, and this was June 30th, 1999, Voldy. The youngest foreign player at the time to be drafted by the NBA. And the Jazz selected him with the 24th pick. So they obviously had a lot of faith in him. And, to be honest, he's had some pretty good career highlights. He's been an NBA All-Star once in 2004, NBA All-Defensive Team in 2006, and then he was on the All-NBA Defensive Second Team in 2004, 2005, NBA All-Rookie First Team, doesn't surprise me, NBA Blocks Leader in 2005. That's very interesting as well. So he was a good. He was not only a good defender, but offensively he was good. He was a good three-point shooter as well. So he played for the Jazz for that long, and he was very instrumental in filling in when needed. And obviously they had Karl Malone still with the Jazz. So and he had a career high in 2001 with 27 points. For the Utah Jazz, and he was a pretty prominent player for the Jazz during that time. He had some injuries though. In the 2004-2005 season, he had sustained a broken right wrist. Only played 41 out of the 82 games, but he was able to be on the second team for all defensive team. So hey. Not too shabby. So, so one of his top seasons, though, when he was with the Jazz, in 2005-2006, he averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 3 blocks per game, and 4 assists per game. So that's not too bad. And he's done one thing that's been very, very interesting, and he's compared with Akeem Olajuwon here. They're the only two players to have finished a game with at least 6 steals, 6 blocks, 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. And Akeem did it in 1985-1986 season, and Kirilenko did the same in 2005-2006. So, there's a lot going on with him, and he's you'd think that he'd keep growing from that. Well, the thing is, Voldy is in 2006. That wasn't the case. He averaged career lows in points with about 8 points per game, field goal attempts with 6. The reason why that he had that decline is, I think you're going to remember these names: Carlos Boozer, Deron Williams, Mehmet Okur. I don't know if those names ring a bell, but there was a lot of trade rumors that Kirilenko would be traded and whatnot, and eventually the Jazz just kind of didn't re-sign him, and so he was a free agent. Well, guess what? He not only becomes a free agent because there was the NBA lockout in 2011. So what does he do? Goes back to Russia, plays basketball for the CSKA. So he played a little bit there. He averaged 14 points a game, 7.5 rebounds. So not too bad in Russia. But as the lockout has come to a close, who does AK-47 sign with? Yes, those Minnesota Timberwolves. Yes. I remember when they signed him, and I was like, ooh, that's sneaky good. But let's remember, that starting lineup was J.J. Barea, Alexei Shved, AK-47, Nikola Pekovic, and who was the?
Was Chase Budinger in the lineup then?
Well, I think he was coming off the bench.
K-Love wasn't still around, was he?
Was that when they got K-Love? All right, we're gonna have to look that up. But
yeah, having 5 white guys in the floor certainly
right.
made a difference.
I know. So they just weren't good. So he signs with the Wolves, and he had a lot of injury issues, unfortunately, with the Timberwolves. He missed 18 games because of back spasms, a quadriceps strain, and finally a calf strain during that season. But these stats aren't bad, Voldy, to be honest with you. 12 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, and then a 51% field goal percentage. That's pretty good. That's not awful. But obviously, he's not going to be the guy in the offense. Like, who even was the guy back then to help these Timberwolves? But so he had a pretty good season. His best game with the Timberwolves, and he had 26 points and 12 rebounds against the Bobcats, and an 89-87 loss.
Nice.
So that's what we got going for it.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. So after one season, what happens? Kirilenko opted out of his final year and the contract, and that was worth $10 million, and he becomes a free agent. And then he goes to the Brooklyn Nets, signs a 2-year deal with the Nets. He stayed with the Nets for about a season. Then he did re-sign in his 2-year deal to be with them, but then eventually he took a leave of absence due to personal reasons. So after that, he kind of said bye to the NBA, and that was about it. But then he had a third stint back in Russia with the CSKA. So he was able to come back to Russia. He signed with the CSKA Moscow of the VTB United League. Nice. And they advanced to the EuroLeague Final Four, 4th straight season, and they did pretty well. They didn't win anything, win a championship or anything like that, but they were always in it. And Kirilenko was, I think he was kind of more of a role player in that sense. He only played like 11 games, averaged about 8.5 points, 5.3 rebounds per game. And then he officially announced his retirement from playing professional basketball, and he moved on. So this is where he is now, but this is back in 2015. We don't know anything else, but he is the head of the Russian Basketball Federation. So he's doing a lot with that. So he's staying within basketball. Obviously, he played a lot of basketball, in the States, and went back to Russia. He's married to Russian pop singer Masha Lopatova. I'm not sure if I even said that right. Whose stage name is Malo. So they have.
He's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself. Apparently, this is interesting. They met at a youth basketball camp in Moscow, and Kirilenko appeared in one of Lopatova's music videos. And then, so they acquired American citizenship. They have 3 sons, Fedor, Stefan, and Andre, and a daughter named Alexandra. And, well, I'm not going to read the last part of this. I'll tell you guys off air what's going on here. It's a little much for the PG / PG-13 here, so we'll
I gotta look it up now. So
I'll send it, or you can just grab the link. I have the link right there. Male athlete. So apparently, like, Russian women are very, they like professional basketball players, Russian basketball players a lot. They say she says, male athletes in this country are extremely attractive. They get chased by women. It's hard to resist. It's the way men are by nature. So that's all I'll really say. But if you want to see some of the other stuff, so this is some weird stuff, but whatever.
So you're up.
Source, and then also he was a big World of Warcraft guy when he was in the NBA, and apparently Channing Frye, I don't know if that name rings a bell, shared a story about him being up at 3 a.m. the night before an NBA game playing World of Warcraft. So that's some funny stuff with AK-47. But there's the Minnesota connection. We're not sure where he is now, but it seems like he's running the Russian Basketball Federation there. So that's about all I got. The short time with AK-47 was it wasn't bad, but then obviously he just kind of left after a season. So I mean, I guess we somewhat remember him, but thank you for his contributions. We'll go with that. So. All right, Voldy, let's talk about Michaelmauti. Let's potty hottie. Go ahead.
So, I mean, when we're coming up with where are they now, and obviously thinking of a player that I wanted to talk about, a couple weeks ago was the draft, and, looking back at past draft class, and for some reason the year 2012 stuck in my mind. Michaelmauti wasn't in that draft class, but looking at some of the names that went by, one of them ended up being Audie Cole, linebacker. I think he was out of BYU, off the top of my head. But Audie and Amadi were contributors for the Vikings for a very short time. And I thought, let's do Michaelmauti. I remember that name. Great player. One of the players I miss playing for the Vikings as well. Well, talking about a little bit of Michaelmauti's background as well. He was a great football player out of the state of Louisiana. His dad was a college All-American, played in the NFL as well. Mom was a great athlete as well. Had a brother who ended up going to Penn State along with him. Ended up playing the NFL. I think he played for Washington as a wide receiver as well for a short time. But, no shortage of linebacking prowess that attracted one university, that being Penn State University. And, bouncing back and forth with playing and injuries throughout his career, 2008 to 2012, Michaelmauti and I believe it was Nick Zordich ended up being one of the two main focuses of a time in the midst of the Jerry Sandusky scandal, which ultimately led to the dismissal of head coach Joe Paterno, and then the downfall of the Penn State football program for a number of years, which is still trying to recover itself out, even though they've had really good years as of late. But one of the memorable moments from the college career of Michaelmauti ended up being when him and his teammates that were still there, committed to the Penn State football program to finish off the season when they were fully allowed to transfer without any penalty. This was pre-transfer portal where you can just go and play whenever at any time. This would mean you'd have to sit out a year, all of this. They would have been granted to leave Penn State, go to a different school, play right away. But Michaelmauti, Nick Zordich, and a handful of other upperclassmen for Penn State said that they were going to stick with Penn State and finish what they had started with Coach Paterno, even though at that time he had been removed as head coach and unfortunately passed away some time after that. That promise ended up, kind of biting them in the rear as they ended up falling in a bowl game against Case Keenum and the Houston Cougars. Anytime I can throw that in there, always a good day in my mind, especially when we can mention Case Keenum on the program. But after the college career, ended up being drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, did Michaelmauti, 213th overall, along with fellow teammate Gerald Hodges, who was another linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings as well. But for Mauti, ended up playing only a couple of seasons, primarily on special teams, nothing really jumping out. Him, Audie Cole as well, Gerald Hodges, kind of a young linebacking core that didn't really fully solidify itself on the defensive side of things, leading into him being cut before the 2015 training camp as well. But that allowed him to sign a deal with his hometown New Orleans Saints, and, of course, going into the 2015 season as well. One of the notable plays being, of course, the special significance and anniversary of the return to the Superdome for the New Orleans Saints, and that block punt that was blocked by Steve Gleason. Well, just so happened that Michaelmauti was in attendance of that game. Fast forwarding to 2015, Michaelmauti ends up blocking a punt off the same punter in Matt Bosher for the Atlanta Falcons, and there's photos out there as well of the Gleason block punt and Michaelmauti's block punt that are eerily the same as well. I believe E60 did kind of a feature on that as well, talking with Michaelmauti and his dad as well. Their perspective, of course, being at that game, and then obviously their contribution to that too. But really after that, not really much to report in his football career. He did end up, playing a few extra seasons with the New Orleans Saints, handful of tackles, primarily special teams as well. Did battle through some sickness as well with ulcerative colitis as well, which did require surgery. Unfortunately, he had to sit out the 2016 season before he ended up finishing out his career through the 2017 season. But recently as well, has gotten into the coaching side of things with Mike Mauti. Ended up serving as linebacker coach and special teams coordinator for his alma mater at Manville High School. But even more recently, as of this past February, Mauti was hired by a former teammate of his at Trinity High School in Pennsylvania, not too far from his old stomping grounds at State College in Penn State. Former Penn State teammate Jordan Hill, who is the head coach for the Shamrocks football program. Mike Mauti will be serving as assistant head coach as well. So transitioning from the playing style to the coaching side of things, probably one of those you don't think about too often as well, going from playing right into coaching as well.
Yeah.
But maybe, molding minds as well. It's still very quite connected and quite active with Penn State University as well, is Mike Mauti as well. So who knows, maybe Penn State will return back to the days of being a linebacker U as it was back in the day as well. So that's where Mike Mauti is right now. So he'll be roaming a sideline for the Trinity Shamrocks this upcoming season.
Well, isn't that good? And Voldy, when we did have both those guys, and I think we were still in college, there was a saying that you had with Mauti and Audie Cole. Could you just give that to the zoners and myself here?
Oh, Mike Mauti and Audie like to potty. Oh yeah, I like to potty hottie.
You know it.
Yeah.
You know it. And that was a good time because Voldy, when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, I thought that was going to be a pretty good steal because there was a lot of good things that were happening with Mauti, but also Gerald Hodges, you mentioned, which I feel like he was a little bit underrated as well, and them working together and whatnot. The sad thing about it is the Vikings just didn't have the right defense at that time because that when he was drafted by the Vikings, his rookie year, the Vikings were like the worst defense in the NFL that year. It's kind of reminiscent to what happened this past year. But it's interesting to me because, maybe he wasn't in the right space, and then they fire Leslie Frazier, they bring in Zimmer, and it just didn't work with him or whatnot, and he, eventually moves on. So, I think it's just unfortunate. But he made some flashes with the Vikings. I mean, even when he was put in there, he had some flashes and whatnot. So, it's interesting because he got Mauti, then he had Audie, and unfortunately, it would have been funny if they both had an interception in the same game. But Audie Cole, preseason legend, 2 pick sixes in a row, which is amazing in itself. So maybe that's another one for Where Are They Now for next time. So we'll keep an eye out for it. Mm-hmm. So that'll do it for this week. AK-47, Michael Mauti, not bad. I mean, we've got plenty. We can keep going through guys. I mean, and obviously if they see this, we'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to have you on the show. I mean, just ask our guy, Troy Stoudemire. So
we treat you well.
We so, all right, that'll do it for Where Are They Now? Now it's time for some ARA. We get it started with some Carloscorrea, his comments, and LamarJackson finally signs his deal. Andrewluck, ? And then we got some NFL international games coming up, and then got the Jokic controversy. So we got a lot packed in here for some absurd or approved. So, Voldy, let's get it going. Let's absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please.
We kind of alluded to it with talking about the Twins and their recent struggles as well, but one player that has been struggling, and he knows that he's struggling, and, well, the fans know that he knows that we all know that he's struggling. It's Carloscorrea for the Minnesota Twins, as well as, after going over 5 last night, 6-1 loss to the San Diego Padres, the fans let Carloscorrea know that his recent struggles are less than acceptable right now. He was even quoted as saying, with the raining down of boos last night, he said, obviously the boos are acceptable. It's part of the game, part of sports. Fans want production, and fans want a team that's going to compete out there and win games. It's expected when you play poorly. But at the same time, that doesn't stop. I'm going to keep working, keep focusing on the things I can control, and the results will come. Well, he's hitting $195 here most recently as well, even after the sluggish start. After going 0-5 last night, of course, signing the 6-year, $200 million contract. You'd like to see a little bit more return on an investment right away, but this is a long season as well. We're 36 games in the season at a 162, this being game 37 here tonight. The struggles are the struggles. You'd certainly hope that he'd be able to pick things up. But is it absurd or prove that Carloscorrea is accepting the boos that will ultimately help him break out of this recent funk to start the season?
Before I answer that, this kind of ties into what we're talking about here.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who the AL batting leader is right now?
No, I don't.
Our guy, Louis Arise. You know what he's batting right now?
But he's in the National League. How's the AL?
398.
Huh.
Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. It's just anyway. So getting back to Correa here, Voldy. First of all, I can respect somebody that is going to admit I'm not playing well. The fans have every right to do that. I can control what I can only control, and the results will come. I applaud that. So, yeah, I'd say it's got my stamp of approval of what he's saying. Now it's like he's saying the results will come. Okay, when, right? So I think that he's taking ownership of this, which is really good. But I'm also a little concerned. And Voldy and the Zoners, I want your thoughts on this too. I feel like there was a reason why they didn't, there was a reason. Let's just say it what it is. There was a reason why that the Giants and the Mets weren't able to sign it. And they looked at his physical. He failed the physical with the Giants. The Mets kind of, it was a whole ordeal there. Then the Twins swooped in and got him back. So, he's saying the results will come. The thing is it's got to go like right now. I mean, you can't have this lingering over you this whole time. And the fans have every right to boo him. It's like, well, gosh, we're paying him all this money to kind of, help this team, and he's not showing it. And they have every right to boo him. But the thing is he's got to work his way back up the ladder a little bit. And he's very capable. He's still a young guy. He's not, he's not like 40 years old or something like that. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to improve, but the thing is, it's got to come soon. It has to come very, very soon, because if he's at this point, if he's this bad at this point, let's just say, let's go July or something like that. Like if you don't see any improvement, like there's going to be a lot of pissed off Twins fans, and obviously the poll ads are like, we're paying them all this money, and obviously what they're paying pitching wise. So stamp of approval. You say it, now show it. That's all I got to say. Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, Carloscorrea has been hearing boos ever since the 2017 World Series, and that's nothing new for him in that regard either. Like, yes, you understand the struggles early on, and talking about with the Mets and the Giants trying to sign that big deal for him, and they were more concerned on the back end of the contract with these 7-8 year contracts and all that money, how the back end of his career was going to look. The Twins are in right now. They're thinking 1-2 years down the road. They're not thinking 7-8 years from now. No, they're looking, because they're looking right here, right now. What can we do with this team right now? And well, it probably helps that Carloscorrea just got a RBI double to score Kepler as well to help out against the Padres too. Like, yes, I understand the struggles early on this season, and you'd like to think that he'd be off to a better start, but you know what? A lot of players you'd think would be off to a better start aren't off to a good start. Jose Miranda, Polanco, even, Kepler, who hit a home run and even scored. So he's got 2 runs and a home run tonight as well. A lot of these guys are struggling as of late. It just takes some time to get used to. Again, we still got 130 some games to still be played over the next 5+ months. Right. There's plenty of time to get things corrected as well. Let's just hope sooner or later. But the struggles continue as well. I don't know what you could really do with him because, can you sit him down to AAA? Do you want to send a $200 million player down to the minor leagues and he probably wallops on them but can't hit anything at the major league level? That's not really a good sign for the Twins, too. But I think with him acknowledging what's going on, he understands. It's just something he's been dealing with for the last handful of years. I think it's got my stamp of approval. Hopefully this just gets cleared up a lot sooner. But, he's off to a better start tonight than he was last night, I'll say.
So maybe they're like, well, Zona's on right now, and they're probably going to rip us, and we're going to prove them wrong. So maybe that took them by surprise there. So, we just need a little motivation. So, all right, next one, Voldy.
Well, this one finally coming through, so we can stop talking about it, with LamarJackson finally getting his extension this past week, leading right hours before the draft, I'll say.
Yeah.
In the NFL, literally right before the first pick went in, he got his guaranteed money, 5 years, $260 million. 185 of it is going to make him the highest player in the league per year basis going into this season as well. So that means that LamarJackson is back in Baltimore as well. He's got some upgrades. He's got some weapons. Defense is looking a little bit better, and even with some more playmakers on the defensive side of the ball than the last couple of years as well. With the added upgrades that they have coming in this season, too, even going through the draft, too, is it absurd or approved? Now, with Lamar back with the Ravens, can he lead the Ravens to the Super Bowl by the end of this current 5-year deal that he has with the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, I'll say this. It really helped them that they got OBJ, and I'm surprised that was they put in that whole thing. But I feel like in this instance, Lamar finally won over the Ravens, and the reason why I feel like this whole, I thought he wasn't coming back, because it just seems like the Ravens were standing their ground and saying, look, you're really good, but you're not as good as you think you are. And he kind of stood and was like, fine, trade me. And that was March 2nd or whatever. But then I think, they all came to their senses. He announced it on Twitter, Instagram, all the socials, and he got his wish. And he's, he got what the amount that he was kind of seeking. He got the players that he would want on the team. He got OBJ now. Will the Ravens get to the Super Bowl? This Ravens defense concerns me, because there's a good chunk of guys, like, you remember Matthew Judon on that team. He was a big proponent of what they did and was really good. Marcus Peters used to be good. Now he's just bad, like really bad. And you got no-name corners, D-backs on that squad, and you don't really have anyone to be – there's no, like, a Terrell Suggs that's going to, put a pass rush. So they really got to look into defense now, because, Lamar can score all he wants, but, if you want to be a top-tier team in the AFC, you got to have somewhat of a defense. You got to have somewhat of a pass rush. You got to have the right defensive backs too. So linebackers as well added with that. So I think you have to factor that in and see where it goes from there. But God, that's a tough one, man. I'm going to say it's absurd. I don't think they will. And the reason why I say that is because, well, you have the Bengals. Oh, you have the Bills. Oh, by the way, you have the defending champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. The AFC is stacked, and that's going to be a tough thing to overcome unless they keep, signing some big-name guys or adding some guys through the draft. So I'm going to say absurd. I don't think they will. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I think this team is going to be a lot better off with, obviously, Lamar here over these next 5 years. Of course, you do get Odell that you sign in the offseason. You get Nelson Aguilar as well to go along with first-round draft pick, Zay Flowers. But then they also still have, guys like Rashad Bateman. This is a make-or-break year for him, too. And then you've got Mark Andrews as well, who's going to draw a lot of attention, even with OBJ drawing a lot of attention as well. Not to mention the running game they have with J.K. Dobbins, too. And you also have Lamar run the ball as well when the design should call for it as well. But I think he's definitely more committed to going into the passing game. He even mentioned that he wants to throw for 6,000 yards with the weapons that he has now. I don't know if he's going to get to that mark, but I think they're definitely going to look at a lot more to throw the ball because he's definitely, even in his own division, his own division is not going to be a gimme as well with the likes of Cincinnati in there as well. Let's not sleep on the Browns and the Steelers anymore. This is going to be a good AFC North here to keep our eyes on this season. Could very well be, I'd like to say, end up looking like the NFC East of this past season as well, where everybody could very well be in the mix. I don't want to see it be like that, but it very well be. Then you got, Kansas City, still defending Super Bowl champions, and they're the ones to go through. Then you got Buffalo, who's got a chip on their shoulder, and they're, a little bit ticked off after the last couple seasons. They want to do something about it as well. I would like to see Baltimore win a championship for, Lamar's sake when he made that promise on draft night and, ultimately bring a championship to Baltimore. I'd also like to see Buffalo win a championship as well in the time of Josh Allen in his career with the Buffalo Bills too, just to get that off their chest so they can say that they're NFL champions. But that AFC is loaded with quarterbacks too, so it's going to be a good season ahead. Can I see it the next 5 years? I would say it's got my stamp of approval. You would think 1 year that they would be able to, hopefully piece something together, because a lot of weird things happen once the playoffs come rolling around too. And you know what? Might as well get Baltimore in the mix. It's got my stamp of approval.
I feel like they're always in the mix, and John Harbaugh does a really good job. So, it wouldn't surprise me. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, this is an interesting mark in the continuing saga of what the heck is Washington doing. The Washington football franchise, the Commies, the Commanders. Well, apparently that there was recent talks of management and even ownership of Dan Snyder and squad, even looking at the availability of former Colts quarterback Andrew Luck, and the subject of an inquiry last year when they were looking at corresponding the long-retired Colts quarterback as well. And that kind of ruffled a few feathers. One of those feathers, and well, many of those feathers, being Colts owner Jim Irsay, who is, well, for lack of a better term, he is nuttier than a fruit basket, I'll certainly say than that, because he is out there, man. He is a flower child in every sense of the word, but he's a goofy dude. Nonetheless, heard about this and even went out and said as well, if any NFL team attempted to contract Andrew Luck or any associate of them to play for their franchise, it'd be a clear violation of the league's tampering policies, as he even tweeted that on his social media account. Since last playing in 2019, Luck has fallen off the face of the earth, except for that one appearance he did at the national championship with the likes of RG3, and basically has, just been out there not doing really much, helping out a little bit with football every now and then. But even looking at the quarterback carousel that they have in D.C. as well, apparently Sam Howell's going to be the guy for them coming up here this season. There are a lot of interesting things that go along with even the possibility of Luck even wanting to come back as well. I mean, when he retired, he was a beat-up quarterback. He was a beat-up guy. and retired at the age of 29 and had no intention of coming back to the NFL. So why would the Commanders even think about even going this route? Is it absurd or approved? Should teams be able to even have reached out to such retired quarterbacks and even the likes of Andrew Luck, knowing well, in fact, that the result's not going to be what they wanted it to be?
This, you know what it tells me with the Commanders? They're desperate. They are desperate. And the thing is, this doesn't surprise me, especially coming from that organization. And technically, I believe still Dan Snyder, even though they have the agreement and whatnot, I feel like he's doing one last ploy to kind of mess with people or something like that. I don't know. Some conspiracy theory or something. I don't know. For Andrew Luck, I mean, technically, I think he's still under contract, even though he retired. Okay, so then you have that. You can't compare it to the Favre situation with the Vikings because obviously, he really wasn't under contract or anything like that when he was done with the Jets.
Reading this article, when he retired in 2019, he still had 3 seasons remaining on his contract. So the end of the 2022 season was his last year under control of the Colts. But even at that time as well, if it was happening in 2022, still would fall under, the league tampering policy as well. So maybe now it's free game, but yeah, that's the extent of that.
Yeah. So I'll say this. That you can reach out to retired players and things like that. That's fine. But in this situation for Luck, I think it's absurd because you have that going for you, and Irsay will, fight to, make sure that doesn't happen and things like that. So I don't have a problem with going with guys who are retired from, football and trying to come back and whatnot. Right. I mean, just ask Brett and Tom Brady in some aspect too. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but with this Luck situation, I think it's absurd and just kind of shows how desperate the Commanders are. I mean, shoot, we should just start making a list of the quarterbacks they've been through now. Everyone talks about the Browns and whatnot. Well, let's start doing one. Let's start doing one for the Commanders. So, I think that's something we should look into. But stamp of approval for guys that are retired, that recently retired, and things like that. But this Andrew Luck situation, stay away from it. Absurd. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I just don't understand. I think at this point, Washington is just trying to create more ways of all right, let's see how much more crazy we can get in order so that way we can get this team sold as fast as possible. Because, the fact that you went out and even, I mean, a lot of these reports not 100% confirmed as well. But if you're going to pick a fight with any owner in any franchise, why would you want to pick a fight with Jim Irsay? Like I said, the dude's crazy, for lack of a better term. The dude's nuts, but in a crazy uncle, crazy grandpa kind of way. It's there's Grandpa Jim. He's a hoot, I tell you. He's kind of he's a wild child.
Nice.
But, Washington just continues to baffle me of just how much more ridiculous can it get. Shortage of them blowing up their own stadium, saying, "Yeah, what of it? What are you going to do about it?" I don't know how much more crazier can it get. And I understand, yes, you're going to need a veteran quarterback coming in here to this season as well, because I don't know the full extent of their depth chart right now, but they got Sam Howell. That's what they've got so far. I mean, maybe they picked up a guy off the, out of the draft and everything, but veteran experience, not looking so hot right now. I mean, I could take a quick look at what their depth chart is looking like with Sam Howell as going to be supposedly their number one. Carson Wentz is out. Taylor Heineke is gone. So right now, here is their depth chart. Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, Jake Fromm. 1, 2, 3, right down the pipeline right there.
Well,
yikes.
Why wouldn't you start Brissett then? That's my question.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. Hey, I hear that Cam Newton's still looking for a backup job somewhere.
Ron Rivera.
I mean, him and Ron Rivera had a decent run down in Carolina, to say the least. I mean, why not see if they can try and put it back together, run it back one more time? But again, that's few and far between there. Should teams be able to reach out? Like, why couldn't they just wait one more year is the thing? Because if they were reaching out to him last season, he was still under control of the Colts and would violate league tampering as well. You couldn't wait one more season to even think about it. And like that big article that came out, a while ago of him, why he left football and the NFL as well, retiring at the age of 29 when he was looking to be, obviously the next big thing, and obviously going to be with a pretty decent team too. Things were starting to come together for Indianapolis as well, but it was just ultimately he didn't want to make it happen. And you know what? I don't blame him for that. Should teams now they can. Yes, they should be able just to see if he's got any interest. But now, at the age of 32, soon to be 33, I don't know how much he's got left in him, if anything at all, because I think he's probably a shell of a player of what he was as an athlete. But you know what? Maybe coaching in the near future. We'll see. We'll see about that. But should they be able to? I think it's got my stamp of approval as well.
Yeah. So we'll see. I just stay away from it. That's just all you got to say. Just stay away from it. And you're just hurting yourself. Fix your field first. How about that? Why don't you do that first? So, all right. Next one, Voldy.
Well, the NFL is set to release the full schedule coming up here as of tomorrow. Release some of the international games that are going to be coming up here this season as well. And, well, there's going to be a few familiar faces, some not so familiar. And, you know what? Maybe it's not so much duds of matchups that we've gotten over the last few years, but certainly going to be some very interesting games, including which the Jacksonville Jaguars, in true fashion, are going to be playing twice in London, as they usually are, as their ownership does have a stake overseas as well. But that's going to be even a few matchups that highlight the European games that are to be coming up here this season, including another game in Germany as well, with, I believe, Indianapolis and New England going to be playing in Germany this coming season. But some of the matchups do include, like Miami, set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, which is going to be a very good matchup. But a lot of teams are going to be playing the first time out of the U.S., including the Dolphins, the Atlanta Falcons, Baltimore Ravens, and the Indianapolis Colts, who are going to be set to play overseas. But other matchups as well, Falcons-Jaguars on October 1st. Then the following week, it's going to be Jaguars against the Buffalo Bills. Then October 15th, week after, you got the Ravens against the Tennessee Titans. November 5th, you got the Dolphins at the Chiefs in Germany, along with the Colts and the Patriots wrap things up on November 12th in Germany as well, in Frankfurt, Germany, this go-around. But the first three games said to be played in London. But looking at these matchups here for the international games that are going to be coming up, London as well as Germany. Which of these matchups you see here that are going to be, what is the most intriguing matchup that you find here with the upcoming international games?
Well, it's all mostly AFC teams. I just realized that.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, the Falcons are the only NFC team that are going there, which is, I don't have a problem with it, but I just think that's interesting. I'm surprised that they kind of went with more of an AFC feel. But the matchup that that intrigues me is the Dolphins-Chiefs one. I think right off the bat, you look at that one and you say, high scoring right there. And you have Tyreek Hill versus his old team, Mahomes and Germany there. So that'll be a fun matchup. And obviously after that matchup, then you have the Colts-Patriots, Anthony Richardson taking on, well, maybe Mac Jones. I don't know. We'll see how that one goes. But that's another intriguing matchup. The other one that I kind of like is the Jaguars-Bills, because you have the Jags that are starting to kind of come up a little bit with Trevor Lawrence. He's really, grown into his role and has kind of, Doug Peterson has breathed new life into that team because obviously Urban Meyer, our clown of the year. But I think that one is going to be the most intriguing one for me with the Dolphins and the Chiefs. And then I'd probably rank second Jags and Bills. Falcons and Jags, it's kind of a meh one. Then Colts and Patriots. So, yeah, I'll kind of go with those teams and see kind of how things go with that. But, yeah, I think the number one matchup, the November 5th game with the Chiefs and the Dolphins. So, Stamp of approval. I do like the matchups. They're not too bad. And it's not like the Jets versus the Browns or something like that, even though Aaron Rodgers would be in there and things like that. But still, you get the gist. So, Voldy, what are you liking?
Yeah, I mean, talking about that Chiefs-Dolphins game, if that's going to be the matchup, hopefully Tua versus Mahomes. If Tua can stay healthy the whole season, that's going to be one to certainly wake up early for, stay up late for, whenever that matchup's going to be played as well. I mean, that the whole schedule is set to be released here at the end of the week. I think tomorrow is when they're set to unveil the whole schedule.
So,
but yep. I definitely like Jaguars Bills. He would have told me this was 2-3 years ago, be like, oh, the Bills by 1,000 in that one. But yeah. Jaguars, they upgraded a little bit here this offseason too. You get Calvin Ridley as well. If they can build off the success they had of last season, with Trevor Lawrence and them getting in the playoffs too, that's going to be a big help. But certainly nothing to keep snuff at. Ravens and Titans, there's a little bit of animosity with those two teams whenever they face up against each other, especially with the late couple of playoff games that they had in recent years. Certainly going to be a couple of good ones to watch out for as well. But I definitely like not a lot of clunkers with these ones that they had in recent years too. I think last year there were a lot of NFC games, and now that I think about it as well, I think it was NFC versus NFC, so maybe this is just the rotation that they have for this go-around with all AFC teams. But definitely looking forward to that Dolphins-Chiefs game on November 5th.
Yeah. Finally, good matchups for the international series. Not confident on Thursday night games, though. So, we'll see. All right, last one, Voldy.
So there's a little bit of controversy as well, but things have kind of sloughed off ever since then. But it was back, looks like 2 days ago. That would have been Monday. That it looks like things got a little bit out of hand in the playoffs with the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns as well. With a situation where ball went out of bounds to retreat from the crowd, and it was Nikolajokic as well, the Joker, trying to go for the ball and trying to grab the ball as the couple of players went out of bounds, and supposedly grabbing the ball from a fan and actually shoving said fan as well. But that fan just so happened to be the owner of the Phoenix Suns, that being Matt Ishbia, and that caused a little bit of foul play on many sides, players and people asking for a suspension from the NBA. But ultimately, the fine overtook the suspension as well, and things have kind of cooled off as well. Heat of the moment situation. I will say, though, Suns owner Matt Ishbia, great embellishment afterwards as well. True NBA fashion with, diving after getting, lightly shoved by Nikolai Jokic, who probably has, 4 feet and 150 pounds on the owner itself. But is it absurd or approved? If you've seen the footage as well and seen the angles as well, should Jokic have been suspended for pushing over Suns owner Matt Ishbia in said fracas back in that contest?
It's this whole thing is very interesting to me, and I see where people are coming from the aspect of, well, he pushed him, or well, he he was just trying to get the ball, and he flopped over, and things like that. I was kind of expecting a fine. Is it confirmed that they fined?
He got fined $250,000, I think. No, $25,000. Yep.
Okay.
$25,000.
Well, pocket change for him, so.
Right.
But okay, so I don't think he should have gotten suspended. It wasn't with malicious intent. If it was, he definitely would have been.
Could have been a lot worse. I'll say that much.
Exactly. So I don't think he should have been suspended. I think it's absurd, but. That whole situation, I feel like, is kind of ridiculous. And, Jokic, he's like, well, I thought the NBA was supposed to protect us with the fans and things like that. But you're the one that went in there and, we're trying to rip the ball away, and then you decide. The thing is Jokic sometimes just gets into his own mind, and he does some weird stuff, and he, kind of makes these dirty plays sometimes, and he throws elbows and things like that. Dude, you don't need to, put your arm out like that or anything. But I also think with the Suns owner, you don't need to flop. I mean, come on. I mean, he could be trying to get him a technical, and then they'd be able to shoot things like that. So I could maybe understand that and whatnot, but the flop thing I just think wasn't super necessary in that moment. But no, I don't think he should have been suspended. I think you just throw a fine and say, bad Nikolajokic, and then move on with the series. I mean, the guy's been fantastic this whole series. I mean, you might not like the guy, but he is doggone good, and he's proven why he's one of the best big men in the league. So, I think it's absurd. I don't think he should have been suspended. Or I'm glad that they didn't suspend him. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Look, I'm just waiting for, unfortunately, another Malice in the Palace type situation because we continue to get incidents like this on the regular, whether it be someone bad-mouthing Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, basically having an entire city hate him as well. And it's sooner or later, a boiling point is going to reach over to a point where another situation can happen like that. And you know what? Push comes to shove. These guys on the court are going to shove back, and they're not going to, they're not going to go down with a simple push back because these guys are freak athletes and freaks of human beings to begin with. And even with, Ishbia being the owner of a team as well, you would like to think, no harm, no foul. I know that I think the next day or whatever the game before, or before the game 5, I think it was, they were kind of chumming up a little bit and, apologize and, kind of played things off as well. Heat of the moment type things. But again, how much longer until, with arenas and everybody sitting on the floor as well, basically being on top of the play and the players as well, till another situation arises where there is going to be, unfortunately, another Malice in the Palace type situation. And I'm not going to say it's not going to be good, but it's certainly not going to be bad because sooner or later it's going to be, I told you so in that situation. But should he have been suspended? No. It's not like he went up and punched the guy. The guy had the ball. He went to go grab the ball, probably said something that Jokic didn't like, and gave him a light shove, and Ishbia sold the hell out of it. So I think, if anything, he was going to draw a technical, but he took the fine, took his licks. All things are good. Great series so far with Denver and Phoenix as well. Let's see who ends up closing that one out and ends up, going to the conference finals too. But no, I don't think he shouldn't have been suspended for that.
Yep, and I think. But you also have to be wary, I feel like, in this situation, too, because he's had some instances where he's like... Yeah,
I was going to say, another instance comes up like this, too. You're probably going to have to take into consideration of some suspension.
And it's the playoffs, so you got to be very careful. Exactly. Just ask Draymond Green. So, I mean...
Serial offender, we'll say.
Yeah, so... we'll see what happens with that series, and it's a very good series, to say the least. And Jamal Murray, too. I mean, he's been fantastic. He's been really good. So, the Nuggets aren't as bad as a one seed as people are thinking. So, we'll see. All right, that'll do it for Absurd or Proof. Great job, as always, Voldy. And it's time for some Shield shoutouts. We have some really special Shield shoutouts this week. And, we're going to highlight a lot of great people tonight. And, Shield's got a great list here. So, Voldy, let's just get it going with some Shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who ya shouting out tonight?
Well, do have to give a big Shield shout out as well to Coach Paul Blanchard for the Southwest Minnesota State University Mustangs baseball team. He was announced as Coach of the Year for the conference in the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. Had the chance this past weekend to see Coach Blanchard retirement ceremony after the end of the regular season. Ran into some guys I knew, made amends with Kelly Loft as well, so we're all on the up and up. He's a fan of the program, actually, believe it or not. Huge fan. He wanted to know what we're doing, how are things? How's DJ Matty C doing? I said, great to have you on board. You know, we handled it. We were cordial to each other. Let things go in the past as well. Good guy overall, so great to see a lot of people down there as well.
Right.
So a big shield shout out to Coach Blanchard and the Mustangs as well. They're in the conference tournament right now, fell to St. Cloud State, but they play tomorrow as well, double elimination, so hopefully they can rally back and make some noise here going into the rest of the conference tournament up in Bismarck. Do have to say another shield shout out. Congratulations to Joe Clements, voice of the Granite City Lumberjacks, as he was announced as NA3HL Broadcaster of the Year. And the Lumberjacks themselves were named Organization of the Year after taking the Frazier Cup for the fourth time in franchise history as well. So congratulations to the Lumberjacks with Defenseman of the Year, League MVP Kyle Mortensen for the Lumberjacks, also taking home some more hardware in his career with the Lumberjacks. So congrats to all Lumberjacks receiving those end-of-season awards from the NA3HL. And sadly, we have to finish off Shield shoutouts tonight with bygones as well, with one of the original faces of the Minnesota Vikings. Former quarterback Joe Kapp sadly passed away this week. Led the Vikings to the 1969 NFL Championship and their first appearance in the Super Bowl as well with the Vikings for old number 11 in Joe Kapp. Even led the BC Lions in the CFL to a Grey Cup with the BC Lions. Made two appearances, winning one of them in 1964 as well before joining the Vikings in the NFL. And also a little bit of some acting chops in his career as well. In the original version of The Longest Yard, he played Captain Knauer to Burt Reynolds' Paul Crewe in that film as well. So he was the original Captain Wilhelm Knauer in The Longest Yard, playing opposite against the likes of Burt Reynolds in that movie, and even Ray Nitschke. I think he was Battle in that movie too, or one of the main guys in that contest in that movie, I should say. But unfortunately, with that being said, that's going to do it for Shield shoutouts here this week.
Well, one thing I want to throw out there is, Coach Blanchard, what a guy, man. How many are they done, or are they still playing a little bit?
So they'll play tomorrow. If they win that one, they'll play the next day. But if they lose, then they're done. Double elimination. So
gotcha. All right. Well, best of luck to our fellow Mustangs. We still, love to rep our Mustangs, and obviously the good people with SMSU and whatnot. Owe them a lot, and obviously good things that you buried the hatchet with good old Kelly. So
exactly.
That's good. That's good. Good to hear, and we appreciate the love and support of Zona. So, great job with Shield. Before I do that for a second here, Joe Clements. It's been a while, man. Shield Broadcaster of the Year. I feel like we haven't heard from him in a while. Hopefully, he tunes into the show here. I was just gonna say too. So, we'll see. Yeah. Great job with Shield shoutouts as usual, Voldy.
Sure.
And like we end the show as per usual, I do have an added thing though, I will say, and I can't believe I didn't do this earlier because we had such a great time. But let's just start it. Obviously, we have merch, people. We got some awesome merch. We've got shirts, stickers, hats. The shirts are $20, $5 shipping. Stickers, $2 for the small ones, $3 for the big ones, and then the hats, $20, $5 shipping. So make sure you check that out as well. And I believe we have one more limited edition XL shirt, or no?
Correct. Yes,
okay,
correct.
So we do have that gray one, so just an extra large. If you guys want it, let us know. So we got it for you. And then make sure you check out W2 Performance. Will Rattel, he's got stuff posted all the time. So you just keep up with that, and you'll see what we got. Check it out at w2performance.com, and check out Instagram, Facebooks, all the social medias for Will Rattel stuff. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers. Make sure you check out the Victorious P.O.D. Make sure you check out all their stuff. Fantasy football stuff is starting to be brought up with the draft and things like that, free agency, so make sure you check those guys out. And here we go. This is something that we needed to do as soon as possible. And the thing is like, how do I forget this? Because it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, we'll do that, and then you just realize, oh crap,
Right.
I guess we just forgot to do it, So it's kind of one of those things, and but the good news is we got our guy. Our guy is Troy Stoudemire, and if you want to get you want to get active, you want to like do some cool stuff, and get right. Our guy TLS Performance with Troy Stoudemire down in Texas. If you want to do it just from you want to do the workouts and get his meals that he prepares. Almost every day, and he's got plenty of them, and it's great tasting food and things like that. So he's A+, and he should be on an NFL team right now. Let's be
Definitely
honest.
should.
The kick return king, as we call him here on MinneZona Sports Live. So make sure you check him out on the Instas, the socials. That's our guy right there. So,
Yes,
all
sir.
right. That's going to do it for episode 148. It was a fun one, and there was a lot to talk about, a lot to get into, and obviously we'll probably have some more stuff coming for you. We got some stuff in the works here, so make sure you guys keep tuning in. We appreciate all the love and support, and we'll probably just see you next week, I'd assume. So
Yes, sir.
We'll keep you posted, and remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.